in NFL history. A look at your box score, most notably Raheem Mostert continuing his torrid pace towards history. 2 touchdowns here on the day. I believe that's 13 on the season for the man doing the most, just one shy of a franchise record set by Ricky Williams a ways back. But things are going along as usual for Miami. They go on the road here against a stout defense and still post 34 points in their Week 12 victory. In studio alongside Emery Hunt, joined as well by the 2-time champ Bryant McFadden, here to break this one down. Fellas, I'm not sure what we expected different than what we saw. It was a quarterback change for the Jets. We'll get there in a moment, but I like to start on the winning side here. Everybody's still waiting on that signature win for the Miami Dolphins. Maybe this isn't that, but non-traditional window, non-traditional game day against a good defense. You go and do what they just did. What did this win tell you about Miami, where they're at currently? That they're able to take things seriously and take care of business, because we've seen teams in the NFL go out there against teams that they're better than statistically and also on the depth chart and lose these type of games. We just talked about the Dallas Cowboys yesterday, and we talked about the Baltimore Ravens all the time, letting teams hang around. Well, the Dolphins didn't let the Jets hang around at all. They went out there, took care of business, got the win, and went and got this thing done and moved on to next week. Hey, Mac, what specifically did you like about the game plan? Third quarter stood out to me. They allowed the Jets to run 3 total plays. They sandwiched a short drive with 3 points and then a long extended one that ended in a touchdown. Really salted the game away there in the in the 15 minutes coming out of half. What did you like about Miami's game plan today?
Offensively, we saw some struggles in the first half. Wasn't as efficient as we've seen in weeks past against a lesser opponent. But what I'm loving, Joe, is the defense from the Miami Dolphins. Since getting a guy back in the lineup like Jalen Ramsey, the secondary has improved dramatically, and because of their coverage in the back end, it has allowed the guys in the front to put relentless pressure on opposing quarterbacks, and we saw that in today's matchup as well against the Jets. So this defense can kind of sustain this level of play. Offensively, with the guys they have at the skill positions, they're going to do numbers. They're going to put points on the scoreboard. But defensively, they can continue to play stout at the point of attack, create turnovers, put pressure on opposing quarterbacks. This could be a unit overall, when you look at the entire team, that can make things extremely dicey in the AFC.
Mac, I'm glad you brought up the defense, and I want to stay there for a moment, because a big loss here for the Dolphins in the midst of this win in the form of Jalen Phillips. Same surface as Aaron Rodgers, and it's not official yet, but we know what it is. It's an Achilles injury, the extent of it not yet known. The video tells us all we really need to hear. What sort of impact will that have on this defensive unit, seeing how well he's been playing all season long?
I mean, when you look at the regular season, I think defensively they have enough to weather the storm, to still do everything they need to do within their division to be able to be seated nicely in the postseason. Where this injury could really surface for the Miami Dolphins is during postseason play, when you're playing good on good. I mean, it's safe to say Phillips was their best pass rush. I know you have Chubb on the opposite side. When you look at the consistency, you look at how disruptive he's been, especially in today's matchup, man, number 15 was constantly in the backfield. So hopefully a guy like Emmanuel Ogbah could show up and kind of give some similar like production that they're going to miss if this injury is severe to Phillips. But hopefully it's nothing severe, because when you watch him play, this is a guy that was trending in the right direction, and his stock was increasingly.
All wins are earned, none are given, but the road ahead prior to those final 3 weeks are favorable for Miami. So maybe you can overcome these, to Mac's point, throughout the regular season. But do you share the opinion that this is an injury this team can overcome if they want to realize the ultimate goal?
They're going to have to, and this is where you have to utilize that depth that you have on the roster. B-Mac talked about Ogbah, you talk about Van Ginkel. You need those guys to step up, and you really need Bradley Chubb to show up and step up consistently and elevate his play. This was a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. He's going to have to play like one consistently the rest of the way. When you think about Phillips, his impact is going to be missed as a pass rusher, but man, B-Mac touched on it. As a run defender, he was outstanding today. So when you're able to play excellent football on both sides of defense like he was, yes, this is a big loss, but you're going to look at Ogbah, you're going to look at Van Ginkel, you're going to look at Bradley Chubb elevating his play. Otherwise, this will be the Achilles heel for the Dolphins' defense going into the postseason.
Yeah. Let's talk about the issues on the other side. I'm not sure we have enough time, but specifically here at the quarterback position, Tim Boyle, Zach Wilson, the question was answered. You got to change sometimes just for the sake of change, and sometimes that sparks an offense. Not exactly the case here. 27 to 38, $179, a touchdown, 2 interceptions. Emery, did you see a difference, or where did you see the difference? I mean, does this do anything for this football team having a different quarterback than Zach Wilson under center?
The only things that surprise you is what you don't expect. And if you look at Tim Boyle's history in college football and into the NFL preseason and what he has done in the regular season, this is what you should have expected. This is not a surprise. So no, there wasn't a different style of offense. There wasn't anything that jump-started the offense. You could have threw Zach Wilson out there for all that, or Trevor Siemian, who also isn't as good as Zach Wilson physically. So you might as well just play Zach Wilson. You know where you stand with him. I know you want to make a change for the sake of making changes, but Zach Wilson's legs could have been a benefit today against the Dolphins. And so when you throw Tim Boyle out there and you don't allow him to throw the football early in the game, they try to play safe. This is what it leads to. Interceptions, bad efficient play. You don't really threaten the Dolphins deep down the field, and they were just able to load up, stop the run. You saw Breece Hall have 7 carries in the entire game. Yeah. Start Zach Wilson.
Yeah. I don't know if that's going to be the lever that they pull, seeing the decision that's already been made. And important to note here, Wilson was listed as the 3rd stringer in this game, so both quarterbacks would have gotten injured. That would have been his only way into the game. Trevor Siemian listed before him. I guess let's ask the question here, B-Mac, is it time to maybe see what Siemian can do at the helm of this offense as it continues to slip away from the Jets?
Me personally, I would have rolled with Zach Wilson, but if you're not going to start Zach Wilson, you start Trevor Siemian. I mean, let's keep it real. Both guys, when you talk about Zach Wilson and Trevor Siemian, has done way more in the NFL than Tim Boyle. And then when you look at Tim Boyle's collegiate numbers, right? He played 3 years at UConn, 1 year healthy at Eastern Kentucky. His college career, he had 12 touchdowns and 26 interceptions in 36 games in college football. So, as Emery laid out for all of us, what did you expect from Tim Boyle? If you didn't really, listen, every guy that makes it to the National Football League, I'm not necessarily saying you got to be a dominant force in college football, but you got to at least be above average. Is that a hard thing to ask? 12 touchdowns, 26 interceptions in college football at UConn and Eastern Kentucky, and he got a professional start on Black Friday, the very first Black Friday. Robert Saleh, what are you doing? Trevor Siemian, it's yours. And I'm not. So my thing is this, guys. Let me ask you guys this question: did Zach Wilson play that bad that he was demoted to 3rd team? What?
You know, it might be a question that has no right answer. You know, you studied for the test. You feel like you got the answers in your head. You get there, it's multiple choice. And the answer you think it is not A through D. The answer is on the roster, but it's in street clothes right now. At least that's what Jets fans are hoping in the form of Aaron Rodgers. But you said something very important. Don't go into next season with this same Aaron Rodgers or bust type situation. Most teams, you see their backup throughout the year. And we won't go long on Rodgers here. Plenty can be said and likely will be said in the days to come. But as these losses continue to stack up, the reality of him playing football gets less and less. I don't care what he's saying in front of any microphone moving forward. I do want to get into one matchup because you try and learn something about the team that you expect to move forward, that being Miami in this matchup. And offensive line was the question mark there. Defensive line for the Jets is the strength. What did you make in that matchup within the matchup? I believe only 2 sacks allowed here, kept Tua upright for most of the game. Did you see this as a step forward for the offensive line for Miami?
Well, here's the thing. I hate to break it to folks, but numbers always lie. When you think about what we saw, a lot of it could be the quick passing game. You saw how many times they got the ball out to Tyreek Hill quickly and let him run around and do things and make things happen. You saw how many quick pitches they had. They were trying to neutralize them coming downhill and get those guys to go east and west. And even on the flip side, Trevor Siemian, Tim Boyle.
You really want him in there, huh?
I want somebody in there. But you think about how many times he didn't get sacked in terms where you blame the offensive line. Why? Because they got rid of football quickly. So you can mask the offensive line play. But to answer your question straight up and down, I thought this was a better game for the Dolphins offensive line. Now, granted, you had Jackson get kicked out of the game for fighting. I get this Black Friday. You want to get out there and get some deals before everybody buy up those TVs that they already bought last year. So you see all that happening. And, yes, you can trust this offensive line. If they're able to run the football, get A-Chain back and things of that nature moving forward, they'll be fine.